Uncategorized, the U.S. military wanted 75 B-2 stealth bombers to fight Russia. The B-2 bomber produced one of the best stealth weapons of all time. And yet, the program called for 75 bombers total, not the 20 we have today. The fall of the Soviet Union saw the numbers needed drop dramatically. Since its inception in 1947, the U.S. Air Force has been deeply invested in operating long-range strategic bomber for nuclear deterrence. However, by the 1960s it grew clear that high-flying B-52 bombers had poor odds of surviving the Soviet Union's growing network of high-speed interceptors and surface-to-air missiles. The Air Force instead invested in supersonic FB-111 and B-1 bombers designed to penetrate hostile airspace at low altitude, where radar detection was more difficult. But Pentagon strategists knew the Soviets were developing Doppler radars and airborne radars to cover that blind spot. By then, U.S. aviation engineers were aware that radar-absorbent materials and non-reflective surfaces could reduce a plane's radar detection range drastically, features implemented to modest results in Lockheed's State Route 71 Blackbird spy plane. Lockheed's have blue prototypes led to the first operational stealth aircraft, the F-117 Nighthawk strike plane. The Pentagon wanted its next stealth plane, the Advanced Technology Bomber, to address the strategic nuclear strike role. By then Northrop had tested at Area 51 in Nevada a bizarre-looking stealth demonstrator called Tacit Blue, also known as the Whale, or Alien School Bus. Earlier in the late 1940s, the firm had developed a gigantic 52-meter wingspan flying wing jet bomber called the YB-49. When Lockheed and Northrop went head-to-head in the ATB competition in 1981, Northrop's larger, tailless flywing concept won out. Details remained highly classified, with the Pentagon procuring parts from mystified subcontractors using dummy companies. Nonetheless, two B-2 engineers were arrested for industrial espionage in 1984 and 2005. Over the next 8 years, the bomber was expensively redesigned for low-altitude penetration, leading development costs to overrun to $42 billion, generating political controversy. The Spirit was finally unveiled in 1988 and made its first flight the following year. But even before it began production in 1993, the Cold War abruptly ended with the dissolution of the Soviet Union, largely taking the rationale for a nuclear-armed super bomber with it. The Air Force still wanted B-2s, but the expensive program was on the chopping block with other premium weapons like the Seawolf-class submarine. The Pentagon hastily placed new emphasis on developing the B-2's non-nuclear capabilities. After all, a stealth bomber could theoretically reduce the number of escort aircraft required in the opening days of a conflict. In practice, Spirits have often been accompanied by EA-6B Prowler aircraft to provide jamming and anti-radar support, just in case. The Spirit procurement was first reduced to 75, then cut to 20 by the Bush administration in 1992. An additional B-2 prototype was converted to operational status under Clinton, for a total of 21. This caused the B-2's $500 million unit price to surge to $737 million, or $929 million counting spare parts, upgrades and technical support. With development factored in, the Spirits come out to $2.1 billion, by far the most expensive airplane ever built. All but one test aircraft serves today with the 509th Bomb Wing based in Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri, a unit descend from the group which dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan. The Spirits are flown by an elite corps of around 80 pilots who often fly globe-spanning missions directly from Whiteman, though B-2s have also been forward-based at Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, Guam and England. Each Spirit is named after a U.S. state, starting with the Spirit of Missouri. The exception is Spirit of Kitty Hawk, said to be possessed because it once mysteriously started its engines in the hangar while unmanned. In 2008, Spirit of Kansas crashed shortly after takeoff in Guam due to an air moisture sensor miscalibrated by a storm led to a malfunction of the fly-by-wire system. Thankfully, the crew successfully ejected from the most monetarily expensive airplane crash in history. Like today's F-35, early production B-2s were not really delivered, feature complete, lacking full payload, weapons, navigation and defensive systems. Over time, Northrop Grumman phased in 2 improved models, introducing a terrain-following system, GPS navigation, satellite communications via laptop, instead of very terse high-frequency radio messages, and most importantly, integration of smart bombs and cruise missiles. Today, the Air Force continues to invest billions updating the B-2's radar-absorbent materials, fiber optic wiring, computer processors and data links.